And we live. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, the 1st of July. So we're starting a new month here with this wonderful series of hours. Tomorrow is beautiful webinar series. And today's topic, very, very topical, I would believe, even as a man-child. Friends, I would suggest that this women in leadership, the interchanging roles of women leading and working remotely during this pandemic period is very, very topical. And our star of this morning is Dr. Jane Usher, who will take us through her insights and own experiences within this particular realm. And even myself as a man, I've during this period often thought and reflected, and even in my own context, this demands that's particularly on our women and our colleagues, our wives, and so forth. So we're looking forward, Jane, and colleagues. Just by way of introduction, Jane has a master's degree in interpersonal and professional leadership, and a PhD in leadership, performance, and change. Interests in the leadership domain include areas such as workplace bullying, women in leadership, and responsible leadership. And one of her current interests is the role of leadership in the fourth industrial revolution. Jane has presented at academic conferences and is a reviewer for a number of academic journals. And Jane is also an external moderator for a variety of universities. She supervises and assesses master's students' dissertations and research projects. And Jane is also a fellow of the Higher Education Academy, a member of the Southern African Institute of Management Scientists, and a member of the Worldwide Association of Female Professionals. So really looking forward to this, Jane. And without any further ado, handing over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kobus, and good morning, everyone. Sure. Thanks for that intro. Wow. Okay. It sounds far more impressive than than it is. Anyway, I'd like to say good morning to you all, and thank you for spending a bit of time with us so that we can discuss and come to grips with some of the areas that I think women are dealing with at the moment in terms of your roles that are interchanging and the identities within those roles that you may not quite, we may not quite know how quickly your roles are changing through the day. And it's good to see that there are some men here. So you may also be feeling some of these issues, and maybe you'll also get some insights. So if I could ask Michaela to go to look at the first poll that I've just asked you to fill in, is just to get a sense of how many people are currently working remotely. Are you fully remote? Are you back at work, or is it both? Because those instances show that there are slight differences in what you may be experiencing at the moment. And then the next poll that I've asked you just to think about and to fill in, and it may be an idea perhaps later on, is to make a note of the roles. How many roles do you think that you have? So do you think you've kind of got 1 to 3? You might be your wife, mother, daughter, or 4 to 6 or 7 or more. And I think we may be a bit surprised at how many roles you do actually have. So moving on to what our focus is today, is we're going to look at what our current reality is, where we are, the changing and interchanging roles and identities that go with those roles, because it differs, what emotions occur during the changing of the roles, and then just a few ideas on, what can I do about this? So, is there anything practical that I can do? And it won't be a 4 steps to this and a 5 steps to that, which is often quite handy to know you've only got 4 steps or 7 ways to do things. But so we'll talk a little bit about that at the moment. So there's some takeaways for you to work through and say, okay, this is now what works for me. This is what I'm going to do. So the current reality is we are in a global pandemic that we never expected. It's been thrust upon us from outside. We did not choose this. We've been in various stages of lockdown for 96 days today. And I'm reliably informed by Quibus that it is 96 days. He's good with that. So on Sunday, people, it's time for us to have a celebration of 100 days. And because we're still not allowed to visit family and friends, you may have to have a Zoom braai or a house party braai or something where you at least can connect with family and friends and have some sort of celebration. So our current reality is we have been put in a situation that we did not choose. And often when you do not choose some situation or realities, you feel resentment, you feel a bit of anger, you feel a bit of sadness and irritation. Possibly, and I think most of us have been working remotely since lockdown happened here. So we've been moved out of our work environment very quickly and to a home environment. And so the time and the transition for the change was very, very quick. So while working from home does have many positive aspects, you don't have to travel to and from work, so you're saving time there. You may be saving petrol costs or just transport costs. You may be saving money on work clothes that you don't have to keep buying. That's great. You're saving perhaps 2 to 3, even 4 hours per day, which is great because you're now not traveling and you are not dealing with the frustrations of sitting in traffic, however it may be, and having to deal with those frustrations. However, we've got challenges from working from home. Number one, basic things, you need to be equipped in order to work from home. So you need to have the equipment, the computer that you work on. You need to have internet access that is reliable. You need to have data, and there's an ongoing issue with data. And we need to have electricity. And so some of the people that I work with have been really struggling with electricity issues. So they are even more hamstrung because of a basic requirement that is intermittent. And that leads to much frustration. Then we come to those of you who have children, school going age. You've now become teachers because you are teaching at home. And I'm sure many of you did not expect to be doing grade 3, 4, 5, whatever grade it is again, and helping on a continual basis there. You may also have partners, husbands, or even extended family staying with you at this stage. And with that comes a lot more chores that may need to be done. So, sorry guys, it is noted that more domestic chores and responsibilities ultimately do fall to the woman of the house. And again, talking to different people, they've been saying, you know, I'm continually making food and cooking and tea, and then you've got to clean up and you've got to make sure all of that is happening. And while you are doing this, you need to be working. So it's not the normal work day. So that is an interesting area that people are dealing with. Then because we're feeling a bit isolated, perhaps a bit lonely, we've got social media, which is fantastic. So you can reach out to others. You can see what is happening in the world. And that can be very positive. However, we need to be very aware of social media overload and that we are connected to all sorts of devices all the time. So think about how often you check news feeds, that you're listening to the radio and getting an update on what is happening. You may be looking on Facebook more often than usual, on Twitter, and Instagram, and whatever your social media of choice is. But you may be looking at all those platforms. And so you really need to be discerning about who you follow, because it can lead to social media overload. You don't know who to believe, what is fact and fiction, What is a relevant and valid source? Is Facebook really going to be, the go-to source? But you're getting those feeds all the time. So you want him to feel connected, and you are checking these social media sites. We are social beings, and even those of us who are more introverted still need that connection with people. It's an anthropological need that we have as human beings. And this also creates a sense of isolation. You may feel as though you're living in a bubble at the moment, even though your family is around you all the time, which, as I've said before, you've got positives and you've got negatives, because you've got all these different roles and identities now happening to you simultaneously. And this does cause an inordinate amount of stress and anxiety as you are pulled from one responsibility to the next responsibility, all commingled with this background of messages coming to you. So you are, and it's quite a nice phrase, betwixt and between all of these different realities, roles, and identities. So the main aspect to be aware of is the boundarylessness, if there's such a word. I quite like it. So if I've made it up, that's great. And this is of all the different roles that you're fulfilling on a daily basis simultaneously. So if we can look at the next slide that we've got. So our current reality is the uncertainty, the global pandemic, and what is happening in South Africa. At the moment now, there is talk about another hard lockdown. Again, that's maybe causing a bit of anxiousness, could well be. So when we look at the different roles that we have, and within those roles, you have different identities. And you have different goals per role and identity that you need to achieve. And the way that you go about achieving these goals will vary. So an example may be if you now are a manager at work, your work environment, you come across, you want to be firm and controlled and fair. And that is one way of the way you do things, your behavior. Then as a colleague, perhaps you are more consultative and so on. That's different. Then your identity when you move home will probably be softer. You're dealing with loved ones, you're dealing with your children, and your family and friends, and it's a different way of behaving from a work environment, professional environment, to a home environment. So now you've always had these roles and responsibilities. They haven't suddenly arrived now, but we used to have physical boundaries between the roles. So you would get ready in the morning, sort your family out for work and school, sort yourself out, get ready for work, put your work clothes on. That's your costume or your armor for the day. That's how you dress at work. And it's a specific activity that you go through where you are then able to focus your mind to your day through the physical movement of time and space from home to work. Then you're at the office, you're in your work mode, you greet your colleagues, and that's where you are. You can focus on the specific activities that you need to get done and what is happening, and that is the work role that you occupy. Then you finish your work day and you start changing to another identity. And during your travel time home, whether you may have time to chat to a friend if you're traveling with them, and you decompress and you discuss your day, and that's great and that's done, and you're able to start moving to your home identities and hopefully leaving work behind to a certain extent, if you can, depending on your job. You can leave that behind and you move into your home aspects. So now we've got no physical space between this, and there's no time to properly switch your roles. You're probably working somewhere in your house, in your home environment, which used to be where you went home and you could change. You could shed your clothes from the day and whatever worries you had, and that's your hopefully safe haven. Okay. Now we don't have that. It's great if we're lucky enough to have a place to work that's your own, a study, but you may find yourself working on a small table and your partner's working there, your husband's working there, and your children are doing work near you and with you. So you have no specific place that you could go to that causes that physical space between work and home. And this causes dissonance within us. So, and that dissonance is a dis-ease and comes out in various emotions. So if we move on to, if you've thought about the different roles that you may have, and I'm not sure, I'll just see, Michaela, if we've got, so the first poll we've got, most people are working from home, 96%. And then it's interesting to look at the roles that people think we have. Most people are saying between 4 and 6. Some people have said 20% between 7 or more. So let's have a quick look at this. So yourself as you is a role. That's your identity. And that's very important because, you know, who are you? Then we look at the others, whether you're a partner, a wife, a mother, a daughter, sister, a student. Each one of these takes a different identity. So think about it. If you are a manager and you've got certain ways of doing things and certain responsibilities, and this is how you do things. But then you move into your student role, and it's a whole different ball game, because then you've either got lecturers, you may have a supervisor, so the power balance changes. And all of these roles change within a millisecond, and you don't have time to switch. So we have then a myriad of emotions that start coming through when you're going through all of these different identities. So when you're a manager, unless you are a manager of a restaurant, you may not be cooking and cleaning. Different thing there. So, Michaela, if we can also look at the next slide, just to show the emotions that start coming up. And you may have felt yourself going through each one of these expressions, because it happens on a continual basis, which causes us to feel physically uneasy. And what happens with the emotions is that it triggers a variety of behaviors within yourself, which can be faint irritability, you just get irritated and short-tempered, to full-on anxiety and depression. So you need to start being able to identify where you are and how you can manage these behaviors and emotions. And you need to start becoming more self-aware of your emotions as well as others, because you are in close proximity with people in a very difficult and unusual situation. And these are two of the elements and pillars of emotional intelligence that you need to keep building on and building up, so that you can start building your resilience and your personal agility that we'll talk about later. So if we look at some of the emotions that we get, and if you can go to the next slide, just list some of them and we'll discuss them, is you feel uncertain because we don't know what is happening. We don't know what is going to happen. You cannot make a plan. You may have made a plan to go overseas, and now suddenly you can't go overseas anymore this year, or even travel to the coast. And when will we be able to do that? We do not know. We just don't know. From this, you start perhaps feeling you're treading water. I'm going nowhere. I'm not quite sure even what day it is, Groundhog Day. And you may feel that you're not progressing in the tasks that you used to be as effectively and efficiently as before when you were in your work environment. And this is because of being stuck in limbo to a certain extent, with all these roles coming at you simultaneously. So your feelings of loneliness, maybe feeling cut off from certain people, sense of sadness and anger. So if you look at the emotions I've listed here, they are all heavy emotions. And we need to try and counterbalance that to get some joy back into our lives. Because these emotions, they're there and we need to acknowledge them. But what happens is it eventually brings about mental exhaustion, okay? Because you are on all the time. You are connected all the time, 24/7. And it may even happen that when you are looking after children or doing some domestic chore during the day, you are thinking, "Oh, but I should be working. I should be online and doing whatever it is because you still got your deliverables." So even though you can, and we are encouraged to be more flexible when we work, you still may have a feeling that, oh, I should be working, I shouldn't be putting the washing on. So that feeling that you cannot get to everything and properly complete what you want to be done is, and at the level you want it to be done, is very exhausting and it's frustrating. And then you have the anxiety and fear that's happening, brought about by the economic aspects, financial burdens that are now accumulating. We're hearing about what is happening in South Africa and worldwide, and then health concerns for your family, your friends, and yourself. And here we have different spectrums of people who are paralyzed, either paralyzed with the fear of this virus, and they don't want to go out, and they just absolutely frozen. And then you have the other part of the continuum where people are blasé. Oh, it's fine if I get it, I'll get it, it's fine, doesn't matter. Well, and you, though, need to be able to manage both your emotions when it comes to your feeling about this fear, and other people's emotions, how they are feeling, and then mediate and moderate that so that you can have a relationship with them. So the conflicting points of view that are being portrayed with this lead again to the anxiousness. Who do you believe? What do you believe? Do you believe what yourself? And the behaviors that happen through triggering these emotions are, it's very real. And this is for men and women. Very real, and especially because of all those roles that you're looking at. And we need to be aware that fear, as I've put there, is one of the most powerful emotions. It is actually, in a way, contagious. And you need to guard against the fear. Being angry is one aspect. And then you can deal with that. But that fear can be debilitating. So we need to find out ways, and we'll talk about how we can do this. So if we look at a pyramid that we have on the next, what can I do? What can we do? We all know what we're feeling, I hope, and I hope with us articulating it, it helps you quantify it a bit. And sometimes knowing that people are in the same or similar boat can help you feel a bit better, that you're not feeling all of this and nobody else is. So if we look at the pyramid that we have in the following area, we're going to look at, and this relates to your building your personal agility. How do we do that? Your grit. And that's what we need to do. And you need to start building your emotional intelligence, physical intelligence, as well as your spiritual intelligence, because that helps. So when we look at our pyramid here, it's to build your personal agility, to get your personal mastery, your interpersonal mastery, and then your professionalism happening. And the foundation is your person, yourself. You need to start focusing on yourself, because if you are not strong and well, it's incredibly difficult to help anybody else. And we know that logically, but as women, often we put ourselves second to put loved ones before us. So the foundation is where you start building your personal agility and strength. Then we move into others, and that's, again, it's amplifying your emotional intelligence. And there are far more aspects to this than just being self-aware and being aware of others' emotions. So it's something that we need to work on, and it helps you both in your personal life as well as your professional life. And this is also one of the skills that is going to be, it is required in the time we are in, and in with going forward into the fourth industrial revolution. And then your professional work. So even though it's the smallest part of the triangle, it doesn't mean it's the smallest part, but it's built on your foundation. So we need to find ways to try and make us more, to cultivate the success that we want, to focus on our goals, and to build that resilience that we need. So when we say, okay, what can I do? I don't have a 7 habits for you or 5 steps to do this, that it's a magic bullet. It is for you to work out what best suits your lifestyle and your environment, and how you can manage it. So when I'm talking through some of the areas that I think could help, again, it comes back to you and your way of life and how you're going to fit it in. But it is very important that you make the decision and the choice to make some of these changes. So if we can look at the next one, I put some points there. And this is now ways to develop your resilience, your grit, and your emotions, your emotional intelligence. So, Michaela, if we can go just to the next one, I need you to find where it tells us a little bit about routine. Sorry, I'm messing you around here. Right. So when you went to work, you had a routine to a certain extent, and that helps you move through your day focused. So the one thing that I would say to you is perhaps a non-negotiable is to find that routine that works for you. And how to find that routine is that the morning sets the tone for the day, and the evening will I'll tell you what I think is a good thing to do in the evening, but the morning will set your tone. So when the alarm goes off, you get out of bed. This non-negotiable. No matter how tired you are or demotivated you are, you get out of bed. That is the first promise to yourself. And if you can keep the first promises to yourself, it helps moving forward. So I use a technique that I got from a woman called Mel Robbins. You can Google her. She's got quite good books and ideas and advice. And it's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. And basically what you do is when your alarm goes off, instead of putting it on snooze, as we so often do, you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you literally launch yourself out of bed. Okay, like a rocket, foop. You're launching yourself out of bed and you are up. And the reason we count backwards is because you have to think about it. It's not normal. And it stops your brain from seducing you into staying in bed. Yeah, Larissa, it's the 5-second rule. Yeah. And because when it's cold, and those of you who are in Cape Town and it's freezing at the moment, oh, it's so much better. Just 5 more minutes. And that 5 more minutes is 10 more minutes. And then you're late, and then you're rushed, and then you're stressed. Even if you don't have to travel to work, you still have to start working. But then you've lost your focus and you all over the place. So I would suggest that that is a non-negotiable. And as you start doing it, it actually does become easier. Then another thing we need to do is to move. And now you're tired, you're exhausted, and why on earth would I be telling you to move? But we do need to move. And people are, there are lots of books around there. I see Marcel's put a nice link for you there. Have a look at that. So in your morning routine, think about how you want to start your day. And you may need to get up 15 minutes, half an hour earlier to do this. You launch out of bed, start focusing on your goals, perhaps make yourself some lemon water, some tea, coffee. Try and do some moving there, as in stretching, even going for a quick walk, some yoga if that's what you want to do. And then reiterate your goals for the day. What do you need to achieve today? Because there's work stuff and then there's personal stuff. So your bigger goals. And just start making notes of that. And you'll see there is I'm talking about a lot of writing, and some of you might be saying, oh, I don't like all this writing and journaling. then you need to do what works for you. So then there are other ways of doing these things. So the important thing for us, though, is to move, because we are used to moving from meeting to meeting, moving in that physical space. We used to driving to a meeting, so you've got space between that. Now you don't. So what I'm saying to you is find time in your day for your 20-minute walk around the block. If you don't want to walk or you can't walk anywhere, find some nice music that you enjoy and dance for 20 minutes. Okay, it gives you that feeling of joy. You have endorphins moving around and serotonin in your body, and this also makes you feel better, feel a bit more joyful. There we go. And remember, you need to breathe, because this really, it centers you, and we forget to breathe deeply. Rodriguez once said that the way to have a long life is to breathe. That's the secret to a long life. So we need to breathe. Okay, it sounds a bit silly, but that's what we need to do. Remember that. So another thing to do is find a time and space that gives you energy, you yourself. Find a place that's quiet if you can, so you can be still and be mindful. Some of you may want to meditate. Some people may want to pray. You may want to read an inspiring piece of literature, just something that gives you that energy. Another thing that you need to look at is finding something for you that you enjoy doing. So in this that gives you energy, you might enjoy baking or cooking. For me, baking and cooking is not really going to work because I'm not good at that. But something creative, you may want to start doing some art, drawing, coloring in, gardening is always a good thing. Playing a musical instrument, if you can, that takes you out of your daily frustrations and gives you a sense of accomplishment. So it needs to be something that you look forward to doing, and that gives you a creative outlook. We may think, oh, I'm not creative, or I'm not. We are all creative in some way, without a doubt, creative in some way. So whether you enjoy singing at the top of your voice, do it. Growing vegetables, great, do that. So we need to, in the serious time, find a sense of play and fun and laughing. We need to laugh, and we may not be laughing at the moment. So explore avenues that give you a sense of energy and lightness, even if it's just for a moment. At the end of your day, we do need to reflect on our day. How did we do? So that sense of reflexivity is a good, I would say, something to get into. It takes a little bit of discipline. And again, I'm not saying you need to write reams of paper, books. Just make a note. Okay, I had a good day. This I did. This I did. It's not your to-do list. It's just what went right. What do I feel didn't go right? How was I feeling? So a journal is a good way of doing this. And something that is important is to look at your gratitudes. We all have something to be grateful for. That you could get up in the morning is something to be grateful for. And once you start focusing on the more positives, you can find ways of differentiating between these interchanging roles that you have. So spend some time reading, journaling. You need a little bit of alone time to fill your tank, to sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey has said. And that was a long time ago, but it definitely, the time that you spend working on yourself and understanding your motivations, your whys, and how to start moving between the roles and making your firm decisions as to when are you actually going to stop working for the day. Have a stop time so that you switch off and you do your thing. And you can do your thing, and then at other times you do things with your family and friends. So if we look at the next, in conclusion, really, the to-do things that I'd like to say to you is, it's your aspect of routine. Get out of bed, find a way of being a bit more creative. Mindfulness is a very important part of what we do and how we need to be to progress and to focus. Play where you can. So the first quote is from Albert Einstein, where it says that play is the best form of research. So those of you who are academics, you may want to put in some research leave. I'm not sure that will go down so well with people, but we need to play a bit. And I see, thanks, Esther. Yeah, gratitude. Excellent. So if you want to go to Yale, you can probably audit the course for nothing or spend that money, because positive psychology and what is being done in the field of happiness and gratitude is really coming to the fore now, instead of focusing on the negative. So that is what some of the messages that I have for you today, to say you're not in it alone. Try and acknowledge or understand your emotions that are happening and why. And then through doing those specific activities and things that work for you, you will start building your personal resilience and agility. And that can only serve you better going forward to achieve your goals, to start feeling more successful. And remember to be gentle with yourselves and be gentle with those around you and the different roles and identities that you have. Right, so any questions that you may have, or any suggestions? I see Anne says, yeah, difficult juggling the balls, yeah. And your goals are very, very important. So, and again, also switch off. We tend not to do that. So I think, and you need to be quite firm with yourself and set those boundaries. Really, you need to be true to yourself so that you can help others where they need help. Right. So I've said my thing. Michaela, I think that's a
Yo,
lot.
Jane. Sorry, I'm so excited now and enthused by what you've shared here. Fascinating stuff, and I must say, I believe it's very phronetic, if I may use that expression. Very practically wise, because it's pragmatic, it's values based, and in the pursuance of that common good, even in one's own um, uh, personal living conditions and working conditions. And all the things you've shared, there's so many takeaways, that the issue of changing roles and the identities through the day. And I must just also add that from a perspective of a male, that there's also so much to draw from what you've shared with us, and it made myself reflect on a lot of issues, and especially my generation of men. With cowboys don't cry. You don't show any emotions. You just suck it up, and that type of orientation. But marvelous, and what there is, those experiences and emotions of resentment and the anger, the anxiety, or that mix of emotions, when you kind of thrust into this context where it's not out of your own choice, and the upside of saving on traveling, and so forth, but versus the challenges on the other end, of being, am I properly equipped to deliver on my mandate as a manager or as an employee? The children, the partners, the husbands, even extended families. So the responsibilities are really, really numerous. And then adding to that, the social media overload. You told us to be very discerning. So what is fact, what is fiction, and how do you distinguish between those? The other matter of living in a bubble, even when there are people around you. With you made reference to the difficulty of managing those boundaries, and then the highlighting the issue of dissonance, or that psychophysiological disequilibrium, which is absolutely not a good place to be, and leading to this mental exhaustion. So you highlighted to us then the importance of EQ and resilience, and really to amplify your emotional intelligence, because fear that is so contagious, it's debilitating. And then, finding ways to cultivate, one's own grit and resilience. And I find that the tips that you provided on building that personal agility fascinating, really practical ways to apply in our own lives. And you concluded on the aspects of the importance of routine, mindfulness, playing where we can, and finding meaning. So I just want to extend gratitude. You mentioned gratitude. So this was fascinating, and so many takeaways for all of us. If I think that there's a question from Larissa, what is your advice on how to control your emotions when they take over?
I like that question, because Larissa, you often feel suddenly it hits you and you're overwhelmed and you panic and you don't know what to do. So the advice there is to stop straight away, breathe. Now it seems, breathe, yeah, but breathe, and then start identifying where in your body you are actually feeling that emotion. Is it in your stomach? Is it where do you feel your emotions? So that you can then see, is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it frustration? So what am I feeling? Find a way of identifying that, but just you need to stop and then focus on your body, where it is, and then identify that emotion, and then move on to say, okay, so why am I feeling like this? And as soon as you can understand the why are you feeling like that, you can deal with that, and your emotion will eventually subside, and you can then move on. But you can't actually move on until you know what you're feeling and why you're feeling. So the way to do it is to stop, take a few deep breaths and focus, and see where in your body you're feeling that. And that often will tell you what kind of emotions, or give you a hint as to, are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling panic? Or is it sadness or anger? So that's a way that it's a way of doing that. So don't let them take over. You need to identify them before you lose the control.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jane. Colleagues, I also see so many great remarks in the chat column. There's also a lot of takeaways there that one could reflect on. And the wonderful thing is this is recorded, of course, so you can always come back to this and go through this again slowly, and make your own notes from it. I'm a whole list of notes, and as noted, even as a man, that there is, besides that, it gives me, I don't know if whom of you can remember Defending the Caveman, with the two different men are from Venus, women are from Mars and men are from Venus, that type of thing. But the importance for us male folk to also spend time in your experience, in your reality, and that, I believe, would also give us a greater sense of understanding and not taking things for granted, So I really want to talk to the mana out there, catch a wake up, listen, and on the things that Jane has shared here with us, and all the other wonderful sharings here in the chat column. So, colleagues, any other questions? We still have a few minutes. Larissa, yeah, you say why is a key. And of course, we see a lot of gratitude as well, and thanks to Jane for a wonderful and marvelous session. So I'm going to give I don't want to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but use the 5-second rule to see if there's anything else coming from our wonderful visitors. It appears not so. So on that note, then, on a very high note, and I think that when we leave here, I would suggest, just if you have the time, just take 10 minutes, 15 minutes out and just reflect on the things that have been said here. There we go, Marcel. The mana needs to start confronting their own stories and look deeper. Cowboys do cry now. My man. Marcel, we must have a chat. Maybe we can set up something, eh? And then we invite the women as well, and they can come and hear our story as well. So, colleagues, beautiful, wonderful. And remember our mantra that tomorrow is beautiful. And we're really looking forward to seeing you again at our next iteration or our next session on the Tomorrow is Beautiful webinars. Thank you so much. Appreciate each one of you. Have a great day.
You. Bye.